dog. Hello, dog. You being a good boy? Yeah. Hey, I am, Mom. Go for our morning walk. And it's such a beautiful fall day. It's gonna rain in like the next few hours, so this is the warm time before it starts raining, and then the temperature is gonna drop like 20 degrees or something. It's like 66 out right now. So I thought, hey, we better get in the walk now before we can't. And just look at all these leaves. The wind's just going crazy. Goodness. I actually need to start walking more because it's good not only for the dog, for Mr. Rufus, it's also good for me too. But I've been very, very lazy the last couple weeks and got sick and all that good stuff. So I feel way better today. So I was like, let's just get it in, let's do it, and then let's try to form a habit chain and try to stick to it as long as we can. So we'll see how that goes. Where the right button is on the camera sometimes to get it to actually record correctly. Oh, it is so cold today. It is like 30 degrees outside and it is frickin' freezing. So I am huddled up in my bed right now, and I have been in one of those states where I just don't want to really get up and do much and move a whole lot just because it's cold outside, which I knew that was going to happen because this happens to me at the beginning of every year. How I feel chilly, I just feel chilly all over. I'm almost wondering if the glasses are too much. You guys can see my face okay. Maybe I should wear the other glasses. I don't know. Well, I'm sorry if the shadows are too contrasty, but it's okay. It doesn't look terrible. So I come to you with sort of a book haul. I guess it's a book haul. I picked up a bunch of books lately. So we went over my TBR for November last week, and it's a really good TBR. I feel like I am enjoying it so far. Then a book came in that I had requested that I actually meant to read in October if I could get it, but I couldn't get it in time. But it arrived. It arrived at the library, and I was like, oh, well, shoot, this changes up plans a little bit because it seems like a really, really interesting book. And I thought I'd go ahead and get it. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting test of, I think, my fortitude, perhaps, as I'm going through it. But the book is House of Leaves, and it's by Mark Z. Daniel Lewinsky. I'm probably butchering that last name very badly. So I apologize, Mark. If I am just slaughtering your name, I just completely apologize. But anyway, this book is supposed to be pretty frightening, pretty scary, pretty thrilling, just messes with your brain. I'm kind of intimidated, actually, going into this because I don't typically read a lot of horror. I feel like there are enough scary things in this world so that I don't really necessarily need to read horror. It's also a very big book. Like, it's it's 700 plus pages. Oh no, it looks like it's just at 700. But I think the core of the story, from what I have seen, is really only around like 500 or 600 pages, maybe 500 pages. And then the rest is like a bunch of appendices and letters that are referred to in the text. And there's a lot of notes and annotations in the book. So it has a lot of footnotes. There are tons of footnotes in this book. So it may not take as long as I think it's going to take, but I have a feeling hopefully this won't be too scary for me. I mean, I don't know. I haven't read, like I said, a lot of horror, so I want to try it out and see if I can handle reading it or not. If I have a problem with it and it gets just to be too much, then I'll drop it and go back to something cozy. So I will, and I need to get on this one because I have a feeling that if I get too close to the end of my checkout period with this book, the library is probably going to ask me to give it back sooner, and they won't let me renew the loan. So I need to get on it as quickly as possible. But I mean, I read so far, kind of in between things, I'm up to page 30. I'm just now getting to the point where the main storyline of the book, the main character, whose name is Navidson, he is trying to figure out the odd things that are starting to happen in the house. Doors start to appear. The dimensions of the house are off, and he's trying to figure out, well, how can that be? And he's like obsessively measuring the house. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not really at anything terribly scary or spooky yet. So House of Leaves has kind of thrown November into a little bit of an unknown. Well, not an unknown, but has thrown a loop, if you will, thrown a wrench into November. So we're kind of backtracking into the scary territory, but I wanted to try it out. I really did, and I was like, well, this may be the only opportunity I have through the library system to get my hands on this book and read it, because they only have like one copy. And look at this poor thing. It has gotten like the crap kicked out of it and torn up. This is torn. So I'm almost kind of thinking maybe it's even better that I've gotten a hold of this copy that's so torn up. Because it might just add to the flavor of it. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, I'm getting along kind of slowly in that right now. And the reason I'm getting along kind of slowly in it right now is because I am mostly through Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. This is, I think, the second time I have read Little Women, and it has been a really long time since I read Little Women. I forgot how sweet and wonderful and cute and just fan-flippin-tastic this book is. It is so, so good. I am giving it, when I get done with it, I think, and I'm strongly leaning toward this is a perfect 5 stars. This is the perfect book. It is a warm hug on a cold winter's night. It is so sweet. It is so perfect. And the stories that it tells, and this must have been serialized. This is what I'm guessing. I think that this must have been serialized when it first came out, because each of the chapters is kind of its own little story about, you know, the particular characters, the girls, their relationships with their mother, their relationships with their friend Lori, and their community, and all of this stuff. And, you know, the different, not trials, but the struggles that the girls go through, having to deal with all kinds of things that girls would deal with in all reality, especially back when this book was written. It was around 1868. So, yes, things were not quite, I don't know if the steam engines were around and all of that. And the Industrial Revolution, I think, either was going on, had just started, or maybe we're at the tail end of the Industrial Revolution here. But life was still pretty rough in the Americas, from what I understand. Louisa May Alcott and the 4 girls in this book are all so sweet, and they're just growing up. They're growing up and exploring the world and seeing what life has to offer them. And they live in not abject poverty necessarily, but they are poor, and they accept they're poor. Their father's their mother married the minister knowing that she would not have live in the lap of luxury. Her family, their mother's family, was fairly wealthy. They have an aunt who is very well off. So the aunt does support them in some ways. They have a next door neighbor that's very well off, Mr. Lawrence, and they have a friend who lives with Mr. Lawrence who's named Laurie, and he is, the best friend of the girls, ends up in love with the girls, later on in the book. And all the relationships in the book are just wonderful. And it's just such a pretty book. It's so well written. I think I forgot how poetic the book is. It's poetic, but it's not over the top poetic. It's just beautifully written. And if you have not read Little Women before, do yourself a freaking favor. Go get Little Women. I don't care if you're a guy. I don't care if you're a girl. I don't care, if you think that some of the topics in this book are old-fashioned. You feel like that women are being put in their place in this, and, all they're doing is sewing and knitting and cooking and cleaning, but it's about living a simple, good life. That's really what this book is about. Living a simple, good life, accepting this simple, good life, and just being good to other people and being good to each other and being a good family. That's what all this is about. This book, right now, as we're getting into November and it's starting to get cold outside, and I just hate this time of year because I do hate giving up summer. A lot of aspects of summer, because I like to be outside. I like to do a lot of things. I like to go run. I like to go take the dog for a walk. There's a lot of stuff in winter that I don't usually do because it's just so cold outside. I'm also a lot less motivated to do anything when it's that cold outside. So this book really helps get into the mood for winter and know that you can layer up, you can have a nice warm beverage, you can do all kinds of wonderful things, and you can go outside in the winter, because it reminds you of things like skating parties and sledding and snowball fights and enjoying the aspects of winter that you can enjoy. And it's not all doom and gloom, and spring does come again, so it's good for that. It's good to not let yourself get into seasonal depression. That's something I really haven't had an issue with myself, but I could see this book as being kind of a remedy to seasonal depression in some ways. So, very good book. Go and read it. Just go and read it. It's perfect. It's a perfect book. Probably 5 stars, like I said. Probably 5 stars. And I think also, as I kind of pick at House of Leaves, this might help me keep my sanity a little bit. Let me see here. Let me talk about Count of Monte Cristo. I have been reading and listening to Count of Monte Cristo just because I thought that would be the easiest thing to do since it is such a chunky book. I am about 90 pages into it now. The problem I have had so far with listening to and reading is that I don't have the same edition listening to it. The fellow I'm listening to, he's reading a LibriVox recording, which I like his voice. It's a very well done production of it for, you know, like a guy in his own studio or his own house or wherever he's recording it from. However, he's not reading the same translation that I am. So I can't read it, you know, visually and listen at the same time because I get too screwed up because the translations are so different. So I'm on the hunt right now for someone reading the Penguin Classics edition. So if anyone knows any recordings that they have read the Penguin English Classics edition or the Penguin Classics edition, it would be appreciated. I can't get it through the library right now because every one of them is on hold, and I don't know why. Why would the Count of Monte Cristo be so popular right now? I don't know, but I still love it. I think it's great. So what I've decided to do is when I'm listening to it, like if I'm at work or something, and I want to listen to the Count of Monte Cristo, I just listen to that version, and then I figure out where I am when I get home, and then I just continue reading in this edition. That way I don't get messed up when I'm, you know, trying to read it, because the translation will say, you know, something like strange shadows passed across his face, and instead in that edition it will be like the shadows passed across his face, and it'll just be a different sentence completely. So it just really messes with your mind when you've got to, you know, retranslate things as you're reading. So it's just bizarre. Anyway, I am enjoying it very much so far. We're in the prison, and Dantes is going to find out about the treasure on the island of Monte Cristo soon. And I think that's when it really starts to pick up, because I kid you not, this book has everything in it. It has the drama, the romance, it has sword fighting, it has guns, it has action, it has pirate treasure. I mean, it has all kinds of things going on in it. It is just very crazy, very all over the place. And then there's going to be the revenge tale part of it, which I haven't even gotten toward yet. So the only thing about it that I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, poor Dantes is so innocent at the very beginning of this, and he grows into, I'm guessing, more of like a cynical, don't trust anybody kind of a guy as this goes on. So I don't recall exactly how that goes. It's been a really, really long time since I listened to the Count of Monte Cristo. I'm very interested to see how Dantes as a character grows through this book. So, and Count of Monte Cristo, I mentioned in my last video, is going to be my anchor book for the next few months. So I will not be finishing it in the month of November. If I finish it in January, I will be surprised, because I don't think I'm gonna sail through this book unless for some reason, after I get done with Little Women, the House of Leaves, if I just don't want to pick up anything else but this, I mean, I'll stick to it and see what happens. So anyway, enjoying the Count of Monte Cristo. I picked up another book at the store the other day because I happened to be real close to a Barnes & Noble and decided I'd go ahead and go inside. I was really after a copy of the Count of Monte Cristo for myself, and this is actually the library's copy of the Count of Monte Cristo. So I was trying to find a copy of the Penguin the Penguin Classics edition of that. They don't make it in the Penguin English Library except for the hardback cloth-bound editions, which these are not bad to hold and to flip through. This copy of Little Women, I decided to go ahead and just get myself this cloth-bound edition of it. And you know, the feel of a book this size is all right. I don't have a problem with that. But when you got any larger than this with these, I mean, it felt honking, hulking, like too much, too stiff. And even when I started flipping through this edition of Little Women, it felt real stiff at first, and I had to kind of open and close the book a bunch and flip the pages a bunch and, you know, rest it and put it down and let it kind of settle itself, break it in a little bit, if you will, before I felt like really comfortable handling it. But I do like these. I just felt like the Count of Monte Cristo was too big. So I may get a hardbound edition of it when I finish reading it, just as maybe like a trophy book or something. I think that would be nice. But what I ended up getting instead, because I just have this growing collection of Haruki Murakami, so I went ahead and got Norwegian Wood, because I know it is probably his most famous one is Norwegian Wood. And I like how this edition looked. I actually quite like these American editions. They're really pretty. These are the vintage editions, and you can get these quite easily in America. So I like how they're all going to kind of line up on there. And I was really going back and forth with the different editions, because I knew that there were other editions that had a black and white cover, black, white, and red editions. I don't know who puts those out exactly, but I actually quite like this color scheme and how they're all going to look lined up together. And they look really nice at Barnes & Noble when I see them together. So I may end up picking up Norwegian Wood instead of a Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. Wind-Up Bird Chronicle's very long, and this one is actually quite short. So just to kind of save myself some time in November to help me get to House of Leaves, I may just go ahead and read Norwegian Wood instead. So that's kind of where I am. November's gotten a little bit shaken up because of all of that activity. And that's okay. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Things change, plans change. It just happens. That's life. I just kind of wanted to check in and let you guys know my plans changed just a little bit, and just kind of also gush about Little Women. It's just such a fabulous book. As a mother now, I really pay attention to what their mother has to say a lot more than I ever did before. And her responses to the girls and their troubles and their problems and the agonies of youth and working through some things. And one of my favorites, I actually went ahead and annotated in here. Jo is talking to her mother about her anger and how she's a dreadfully angry person and she holds grudges and all of this thing. And her sister, I think it was Amy. Was it Amy? Yeah. Her sister Amy follows her and Laurie to go skating. Jo doesn't really want Amy to be there, and Laurie is just kind of like, oh, you know, Amy's following us, you know, whatever. And then Amy ends up falling into a river or something like that when they go ice skating, because she doesn't hear Laurie tell Jo that the ice is not safe farther out. And Amy ends up going skating farther out, and Jo doesn't tell her to be careful, and just Amy ends up going under. They drag her out and take her home as quickly as they can, so she didn't drown or anything awful like that. And Jo is then talking to her mother. I underlined so much of this. Jo dropped down beside the bed in a passion of penitent tears, telling all that had happened, bitterly condemning her hardness of heart and sobbing out her gratitude for being spared the heavy punishment which might have come upon her. It's my dreadful temper. I try to cure it. I think I have, and then it breaks out worse than ever. "Oh, Mother, what shall I do? What shall I do?" cried poor Joe in despair. "Watch and pray, dear. Never get tired of trying, and never think it is impossible to conquer your fault," said Miss March, drawing the blowsy head to her shoulder and kissing her wet cheek so tenderly that Joe cried harder than ever. "You don't know. You can't guess how bad it is. It seems as if I could do anything when I'm in a passion. I get so savage. I could hurt anyone and enjoy it. I'm afraid I shall do something dreadful some day and spoil my life and make everybody hate me. Oh, Mother, help me. Do help me." "I will, my child, I will. Don't cry so bitterly, but remember this day and resolve with all your soul that you will never know another like it. Dear Joe, we all have our temptations, some far greater than yours, and it often takes us all our lives to conquer them. You think your temper is the worst in the world, but mine used to be just like yours." "Yours, Mother? Why, you are never angry." And for a moment Joe forgot remorse in surprise. "I've been trying to cure it for years, and have only succeeded in controlling it. I am angry nearly every day of my life, Joe, but I have learned not to show it, and I still hope to learn not to feel it, though it may take me another 40 years to do so." The patience and humility in the face she loved so well was a better lesson to Joe than the wisest lecture, the sharpest reproof. She felt comforted at once by the sympathy and confidence given her. The knowledge that her mother had faults like hers and tried to mend it made her own easier to bear and strengthened her resolution to cure it, though 40 years seemed a rather long time to watch and pray to a girl of 15. "Mother, are you angry when you fold your lips tight together and go out the room sometimes, when Aunt March scolds or people worry you?" asked Joe, feeling nearer and dearer to her mother than ever before. "Yes, I've learned to check the hasty words that rise to my lips, and when I feel that they mean to break out against my will, I just go away a minute and give myself a little shake for being so weak and wicked," answered Miss March with a sigh and a smile, as she smoothed and fastened up Joe's disheveled hair. "How did you learn to keep still? That is what troubles me, for the sharp words fly out before I know what I'm about, and the more I say, the worse I get, till it's a pleasure to hurt people's feelings and say dreadful things. Tell me how you do it, Marmee dear." "My good mother used to help me, as you do us," interrupted Joe with a grateful kiss. "But I lost her when I was a little older than you are, and for years had to struggle on alone, so I was too proud to confess my weaknesses to anyone. I had a hard time, Joe, and shed a good many bitter tears over my failures, for in spite of my efforts, I never seemed to get on. Then your father came, and I was so happy that I found it easy to be good. But by and by, when I had 4 little daughters round me, and we were poor, and the old trouble began again, for I am not patient by nature, and it tried me very much to see my children wanting for anything." "Poor mother, what helped you then?" "Your father, Joe. He never loses patience, never doubts or complains, but always hopes and works and waits so cheerfully that one is ashamed to do otherwise before him. He helped and comforted me, and showed me that I must try to practice all the virtues I would have my little girls possess, for I was their example. It was easier to try for your sakes than for my own. A startled or surprised look from one of you, when I spoke sharply, rebuked me more than any words could ever have done. The love, respect, and confidence of my children was the sweetest reward I could receive for my efforts to be the woman I would have them copy." "Oh, Mother, if I'm ever half as good as you, I shall be satisfied," cried Joe, much touched. "I hope that you will be a great deal better, dear, but you must keep watch over your bosom enemy, as Father calls it, or it may sadden, if not spoil your life. You have had a warning, remember it, and try with heart and soul to master this quick temper before it brings you greater sorrow and regret than you have known today." I mean, that's a long passage. I apologize, it's so long. But it's stuff like this in the book, and how great Miss March is to her daughters, and accepting of her own faults, and yet teaching them at the same time from her own faults. I have always wanted a mother like this and never had one like this. Truthfully, never had a mother like this. My mother has been gone for a very long time. Never had a mother like this, so I've never really had an example. I want to be like Miss March now, is to her children. She's the perfect mother. Absolutely perfect mother. So, anyway, that is one of the many reasons why Little Women is such a absolutely fabulous book, and anyone should read it. Just the best advice in the world's in there. Live a humble life. Enjoy your life. Make yourself happy. You don't have to be rich and wealthy and successful to have a wonderful life. So, Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. The perfect book. The perfect book. So, I will leave you with that. Thank you so much again for joining me. As always, I hope that your November is going very well. I hope it's not super cold, and I hope that you're gently going into winter wherever you are, or summer if you happen to be in Australia. You guys are just heading into your guys' summer. So I wish I was there, really and truly. It'd be an interesting place to visit. But thank you. Enjoy your tea. Enjoy, your warm beverages of choice. I'm out of tea now, unfortunately. I'm going to have to swap up for some water now. But thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.